you have a good relationship with your body. You understand what it's telling you, where a lot of individuals, they just haven't put enough time into it yet to, all right, I need to take a step back, or actually I can push a little bit harder today.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Life podcast. Today, I am very excited to have with us Nick Kuhle. Nick is a holistic health coach and integrated movement specialist. He's got a master's in exercise science. He's a Czech certified coach. He was a collegiate golfer, and he's gone through many health challenges as well in his life and has worked with lots of clients who have gotten phenomenal results. He's got a lot of great testimonials. So really excited to be chatting here with you today, Nick.
Dude, I'm stoked to be here. Appreciate it, brother.
Awesome. So yeah, let's give a little background of kind of like your story and I know you had some challenges and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, brother. I will. I'll give you the quick rundown story. You let me know where you want me to go further in depth.
Sure.
I went to undergrad for education. I was a teacher for 10 years. About 5 years in, I had a lot of health concerns. I'm going to dive into that because I think that paints a very good picture. I couldn't have take a step back. I changed some things up in my diet. I was doing some things that I thought were very healthy at the time, reading all the literature, being super informed, but did not pay attention to my body. I want to preface that. Didn't listen to the signs that it was telling me. It got to the point where I wasn't having a bowel movement for 4 days, 4 or 5 days. I will tell you, the gas got horrendous and you did not want to be around me at all. Had blood work, couldn't figure out what was going on. All the labs were coming back normal, except my testosterone got down to the equivalent to an 85-year-old man. And I was roughly 25 years old. So I had no libido. And being a 25-year-old man, that's like demasculating, and it opens your eyes like, what in the heck is going on? So they just wanted to prescribe me medical grade laxatives. I was on those. They quit working, doubled the dose. And then it got to the point they wanted to put me on androgel, I believe is the name of it, which is like testosterone hormone replacement therapy. I read the label and it was like, do not be around children, or don't touch skin with children. Don't hug your children. Don't hug your wife or significant others. They can have like hair growth in weird places. They can go through early onset puberty. And I was like, that was the pivotal moment where I was like, I need to change something up. I'm not going this route, which led me into pursuing this degree in holistic health because I wanted to do it naturally. And then found out that I was not living a healthy lifestyle. And now that's pushed me in this direction of opening the blinds and seeing how I'm living unhealthy and how that produces ill health if you don't balance certain aspects of your health. So in a nutshell, that was the story.
Wow. And so I guess kind of fast forwarding then to I guess listeners will probably want to know, how did you solve this problem? What would you do?
So at the time I was on a ketogenic diet. I'm not pro keto. I'm not against keto. But I was eating a way that was not healthy for my body. I was having a lot of specific foods, like cabbage was one of them. That was like, I'm sure there's 100 different studies out there that shows the importance of cabbage and how beneficial it is. I don't do good with the cruciferous family at all. My body wasn't paying attention to that. And I would have that all the time because it's lower carb and you can get away with that on a keto diet. Not that I knew a ton about keto back then. That coupled with a few other foods, poor sleep, poor movement, poor hydration, things of that nature. And it just produced these ill effects. On paper, it looked like I was doing everything, for the most part, pretty healthy. But yet my body was not responding the way it should. And that's where light bulb goes off. What the heck am I doing? Like, something's got to change.
Do you think it was do you think it was something to do with the lack of fiber, like on a keto diet where you didn't have enough fiber and that's why you weren't having bowel movements? Or what do you think?
I don't know for sure, but I would put my money on that I had some sensitivities and I don't do well to specific foods.
Mm,
But
mm.
I was headstrong, like, this is the way to go. This is how I can get cut and look super good for the girls in the summertime. This is how I'm going to raise my ego and look the best. And it did the complete opposite. So yeah, I think it was food sensitivities for the major component of it. Obviously, other aspects of my life were also out of play.
Interesting. Interesting. I do want to go back to in a minute, but about food sensitivities. But before that, this is kind of a theme now that I'm really realizing as well, is that, again, because my story, as you know, I lowered inflammation in my body by basically, the short version is going paleo. I don't like to really categorize myself as paleo or keto or whatever. But I just think I'm a healthy eater that doesn't eat sugar. I don't eat grains. Those kind of things cause a lot of inflammation for me. Fried foods obviously is another one. And so for me, in the beginning, I was just like, everyone's crazy. Why don't they just do what I do? Like, this is the way that works. Like health, I know about health. This works. It healed me, so it'll heal you too. But there's a lot of nuances and different things that work for. Not everyone is the same, obviously, right?
No, not even close. Like, what you need to eat is going to be different than what I need to eat, is different than my girlfriend, what she needs to eat. So there's a lot of individuality within nutrition alone.
Yeah. And so then how do you figure out, so I guess some practical advice for people who are listening. So how do you kind of figure out what is right for you? Do you recommend people take, a food sensitivity test as well, or kind of like, yeah, what do you think?
I'll answer that one first, and then I'll dive into what my approach that I work with a lot of my clients on.
Great.
I don't think food sensitivity tests are the best option out there. There are some more gold standard ones. Um, I don't, you can get false positives, false negatives that may start you in the right direction. But once again, it comes back to how you feel. Like, yeah, you can take all those foods out and still have the same symptoms. So what I like to do with my clients is, it all depends on where they come to me at. If they're eating garbage and they're eating takeout food all the time, first off, we got to get whole foods in. We got to get more of a single ingredient foods into their diet. Once we have that set up, then we can start fine tuning things. But I need to bring them into awareness first on how their body responds to certain things. And it's very difficult to do that when they're eating garbage food. So I'll even throw this in, like, if they're not sleeping well and they're dehydrated, that all plays a significant role in your energy levels and your health. So we have to get a basic foundation first so you can truly feel. I think this is the funniest thing. I always share this with my clients, and might piss them off a little bit, but they'll start eating healthy and then they go eat like McDonald's or some fast food or something that doesn't work with them. And they take like 5, 6 steps back and they're like, I just feel disgusting. I feel my energy got shot. And that's where I applaud them. And I'm like, now you have the power. You're empowered. If I do my job correctly, they're empowered. They know how it feels, but it's very difficult to get to that point if you're constantly eating all these things like you were talking. Cutting out those inflammatory foods is one of the simplest things you need to do first. Simple is not always easy,
Right.
especially with the society we live in.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing that you mentioned that I think is really interesting, it's been on my mind actually quite a bit recently. And it's kind of funny because there's a guy who's really big, kind of like in the business world, big kind of guy on YouTube and this and that. And he's also super jacked dude. I won't call out his name or whatever, but and now he's kind of talking to a lot of people like, never skip dessert, like eat dessert every day and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, and it's very much also like a calories in versus calories out is the only thing that matters. And you even said yourself, like, hey, I thought I was eating the things that were going to give me the right body composition. Or I hear people say this thing of like, yeah, as long as you burn more calories, you can eat dessert every night and eat sugar and who cares, right? And look, some people, everybody's different as well. I think a lot of us that get into this health kind of niche, we may be more sensitive, and that's maybe why we had health problems, and maybe we have to be more careful how we eat because we're maybe more sensitive to this stuff, as maybe someone has better genetics or whatever the case may be. But my point is to really think about, like, I think there's a confusion between body composition and health, right? Like, you could be totally jacked and ripped, but actually be totally inflamed on the inside or not be in good health, right?
You see this a lot. I think it's easier to see in females.
Mm.
If you're let's go with the calorie thing. Let's say you're severely restricting your calories. Yeah, you may look jacked, but in the long term, is that healthy for you? Are you losing your periods? Like, that's messing with your hormones. Yeah, you may look good on the exterior, but that does not equate to a healthy interior as well. We know the psychology and the physiology, or I guess the psychology in our head and the physiology within our body. They mirror one another. They're always they're always talking to one another. So if your physiology is off, your hormones are off, that's going to have a huge impact on your health. I personally know super yoked dudes, super jacked dudes. And I'm not saying this is for everyone by all means, but there's some of the how do I want to say this nicely? Emotionally and mentally, they struggle a lot. I'll say that.
Yeah, try walking around at 5% body fat year round. That's going to take a toll on you mentally, right? Like, your brain needs some healthy fat, in there, and just, yeah, I agree.
Can we dive into the calorie in, calorie out aspect?
Please.
This is my opinion, so I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I would love to hear your opinion. In general, I feel like a lot of people, when they come into the health realm, it's nutrition and it's working out. Those are the only two things that they focus on. And then from the nutrition standpoint, it's literally, I can only eat X amount of calories.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Maybe. I come at it from the standpoint of quality versus quantity. Everything in our life, we want quality friendships, we want quality cars, quality living environments, all that. But then when it comes to food, it's quantity. I love putting an emphasis on quality of foods. When you're eating quality single ingredient, grass-fed and finished beef, organic fruits and veggies, local farmers market, it's very difficult to overconsume foods.
Yes.
I've tried this. Like, I would force myself to eat sweet potatoes and beef and things of that nature. And it's like, I'm topping out at like 2,600 calories a day, and I'm an active person. Like, it's very, very, very difficult. And I think if people change their mindset to quality over quantity, it's not restrictive. It's like, I can only eat this amount of food versus I can have virtually endless of these foods, which are nourishing. I mean, you eating 1,800 calories of processed food is going to have a different impact on your physiology than 1,800 calories of single ingredient whole foods.
Yes. Yes. And in fact, I tell people that all the time. Like, guys, like, I'm 9% body fat, pretty much year round. And I don't diet. Like, I eat kind of as much as I want. I feel like I eat too much sometimes, but because I'm not eating these, inflammatory foods, right? I'm eating these whole foods, like you said, vegetables, grass-fed meat, organic pasture-raised eggs, things like that. Like, I literally, if I for me, trying to get big is actually hard, because like I can't eat that much. Like, I'm full just off of the good, healthy foods that I'm eating. Like, I don't think I could pound that many calories, or just like whatever is needed for me to get like huge. Not that I necessarily want to be, so huge anyway, but I think, the key distinction here, what we're talking about, that I really want to bring to the attention of more people, because you're absolutely right. Like, some people talk about health and they're like, it's all about calories in, calories out. And I'm like, no, we have to separate it. There's body composition and then there's health, right? And body composition, yes, it's a part of health. If you're overweight, if you're, technically obese from the American standard of the word obese, then yes, most likely you are very unhealthy if you are obese. It's the same foods also that I found that make you gain weight are the same foods that actually cause inflammation in your body, right? Sugar, alcohol, fried foods, right? The same things that cause inflammation, the same things that cause you to gain weight. So I think body composition, okay, maybe it's maybe it's half the battle or a third of the battle when it comes to health. But I think we can't just say that, we can't just tell people to eat sugar every day, and as long as you work off those calories, you're good. I don't think that that's health to me, you know?
No, I don't think it is. And obviously, if you're coming at it from the standpoint you're trying to get stage ready and you're gonna perform, yeah, you're gonna have to dive into some calories and go calorie restricted, obviously, to get to that physique where you're stage ready. But for health, I think that's vastly different, and
Hmm.
that's where I think there is confusion within the health realm of um, those two aspects, the body composition and the health, overall health.
Yep. Yep. Cool. So yeah, kind of piggybacking on that, or just continue on that. I know that you are a Czech certified coach, and was just curious, kind of like I'm curious for myself to learn more about that. I know that there's a lot of kind of profound things that you've probably learned in your trainings, and just kind of curious to hear kind of what are some big takeaways, um, maybe things that you've worked with clients on, biggest struggles, or kind of aha moments that you've seen there.
Yeah, let's can I give you an analogy first and then piggyback on that?
Please.
Beautiful. A plant, most of us have house plants in our house. Every plant needs a certain amount of sunlight, soil, and water. Too much, too little, it's going to be sickly. You're going to see yellow leaves, brown leaves, whatever will happen. That plant's always giving signals on what it needs. We as humans are essentially the exact same, just a little bit more complex. So
Mhm.
within the coaching aspect of things, learned a lot of this through the Czech Institute as well, Paul being my mentor, but there's 6 basic foundational principles that we need to be healthy to lay the groundwork. So the first one is, if anyone's listening to this, take your pointer finger, point to your forehead. It's our stress, our thoughts, our words that we're using. Second one is our breathing. We take 25,900 breaths a day. If we can't breathe correctly, which vast majority of people can't, that leads to a lot of stress within the body.
Mm,
Point to your mouth. Food and hydration. Those are 2 big ones. The last 2 are sleep and then
mm,
movement. So if we don't have those 6 principles in balance, there's going to be disharmony within our physiology and our psychology. Um, Bar none, most people, I will say darn near everyone that I work with, has to clean up their diet. That's a general
mhm,
theme. The other general theme or themes that I see is hydration. Simply hydration. 1% dehydration leads to psychological and physiological disturbances.
mm.
Um, Anyone that's in the gym, how well do you perform when you're dehydrated?
Right.
Not well at all. How well do you think when you're dehydrated? And if you're not aware of this, make sure you're hydrated and then go a day and go very low on it. And you'll see the difference.
And yeah,
Um,
so going into that, let me ask you about hydration a little bit. So is it just water, or are you, I know there's a lot of talk these days about electrolytes, which I take on occasion. Maybe I should be taking more. There's also, I've heard conversations about, salt has always been the villain, but now there's a lot of people that are saying actually people who exercise and eat a good kind of paleo type diet maybe need more salt in some cases. What's your kind of thoughts about that?
yeah, I'm a huge fan of salt myself.
Mm,
The distinction is I'm going with unprocessed, unrefined quality, like Celtic sea salt,
that's
Redmond
what I
sea
use.
salt out of the
Yeah.
Utah land or salt mines.
Mm,
Um, Himalayan is another decent one. That's a little bit more low sodium. If you're being active and you are working out, you're more than likely you're going to benefit from salt. Salt helps with hydration as well, with water retention. Obviously, too much salt is bad. Too much of anything, too much water is bad for you.
mm,
So there's always individual tolerances within it. I'll throw out a good recommendation. If anyone wants to read the book, Your Body's Mini Cries for Water by Dr. Batman Gilich. I'm not even going to attempt how to spell that.
hmm.
Very good. He talks about all the physiological aspects and psychological aspects of being dehydrated. Um, so yeah, I'm a big fan of, even with water, I'll put a little sprinkle of salt in my water and it makes it more palatable. And it's so much easier to drink water. I don't know. Have you ever done that before?
I haven't. I've done a little bit of salt in water. I've heard of people doing that. I just tend to I eat organic pasture raised eggs almost every day. So I'll put salt and olive oil
Yeah.
on those. But yeah, I used to feel bad about it. I used to be like, no, I can't put salt. But now it's like you're hearing more and more that it's actually, a good thing for, for essentially hydration. And kind of just to finish on the topic of hydration. So how would people know if they're dehydrated? How much, what should people be doing to make sure they're not dehydrated? Do you have some sort of protocol or recommendations?
Yeah, there's a couple things that you can do. I would not go off of if you have a dry mouth. That's like one of the last things. Don't use that as an indicator.
Okay.
There is something where you can do where you can pinch the back of your skin. If it snaps back into place, that's a good sign that you're hydrated. If
Hmm.
it stalls for a split second and it like slowly goes back, very good sign you're dehydrated. Obviously, these are um, don't take it as like the gospel. Um, Water intake, obviously, if you're more active, you're going to want more water within your diet, more electrolytes, things of that nature. But an easy rule of thumb is half your body weight in ounces. So if you're a 200-pound person, shoot for 100 pound or 100 ounces of water. If you're a 100
Okay.
pound person, shoot for 50 ounces of water. That's going to get you in the ballpark.
Oh, that's
Um,
good. I hadn't heard that before about half your body weight in ounces. That's a good one.
I've seen it work out well for myself personally, anecdotally, and for my clients as well. So let me share. I'm going to share one story with you because this one just baffles me. I had a client start with me, and in her onboarding paperwork, she was telling me she's been to like 8 different ologists. You throw them whatever they are in front of
Mm-hmm.
them. She rattled them off. No one could figure anything out. She was telling me that she was crawling to her bed because it was less painful than walking.
Yikes.
I was like, "Holy! Like, what did I just get myself into?" Like, I'm gonna be deep with this client. Literally in the first week, I was like, before we even started our coaching, I was like, just drink more water. Like, drink whatever you're at, double it. I think she was at like 15 ounces, but she was having a ton of coffee in the meantime, which is a diuretic, which can excrete more, so you're even more dehydrated. Within that alone, she's like pain reduction by 85, 90% alone. So
Mm.
I just want to be so clear and get this message across. Hydrate, guys. That's the simplest thing that you can do to catapult your health so much further.
Mm. Nice. Nice. Yeah. Completely agree. And then you also mentioned, would love to have you touch on a little bit breathing, because you mentioned breathing and we all know how important it is. What tips, what mistakes do you see people commonly make around breathing? What are some tips you have around that?
Low and slow.
Hmm.
Um, Most individuals, I'm painting with a broad brush here, their breath is caught in their chest. They're
Mm-hmm.
either hyperventilating, they're breathing through the mouth, they're always up in the chest. On a physiological level, that's going to push you into a sympathetic, revved up regulated state. If you're in that state all the time, the body's going to perceive you being like being chased, or you're in a fight mode, fight or flight, if anyone's ever heard of that. So by taking yourself out of the chest and going deep into the belly, that will be the simplest thing that you can do, with the caveat of inhale through the nose. The nose is meant to be breathed through. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Another example for you guys, for people to, I was doing a workshop at a school, had an individual, had the entire group breathe like that for 3 minutes. And I just asked people, what did you guys notice? And one of the individuals had a smartwatch on. Her heart rate dropped, I think it was like 10 to 15 beats in 2 to 3 minutes of just
Mm.
breathing through the nose into the belly. What a lot of people do is they stay in the chest all day long.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. The stomach, letting your stomach expand. Like, we're kind of trained not to do that, right? Nobody wants their stomach hanging out, right? So we're always trying to like suck in our stomach, which from a breathing perspective is kind of the worst thing. And I remember my father who used to play a lot of tennis, told me as well. He went through some breathing technique thing where again, you kind of like really just let your stomach out, hang out and breathe, let it expand as much as you can. And he said he would do this like in between, tennis games or something. And it was just like, total game changer for him. I also do that as well. I do some box breathing. I actually am friends with Mark Devine as well, who did the box breathing, which is, again, it's just kind of like forcing yourself to breathe through your nose, through your stomach, and through a certain pattern. Is there any other type of like patterns or breathing techniques or things that you like?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. Box breathing is like a 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold. You repeat that for a while. More than likely, if you're struggling to fall asleep, you'll lose count and you'll fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of the 4-6-8, 4-second in, 6-second hold, 8-second exhale, which really forces you to slow down your exhale and breathe through like pursed lips or through your nose. You can't see, but like breathing
Yeah.
through a straw, essentially.
On
Wim
that
Hof.
topic, what is like between like the breathing through your mouth and nose? And actually, I heard you just say Wim Hof, which I've done a little. I'm sure you're going to talk a little bit more about as well. Which he sometimes does it through the mouth. Sometimes, I've heard a lot of the breathing people saying you should only breathe through your nose as much as possible. Then I've heard people say always breathe in through your nose, but out can be through your mouth. And a lot of yoga and things like that, they're telling you to exhale through the mouth. I definitely feel that when I'm stretching and doing yoga, if I breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, I get a way deeper stretch and my muscles just kind of loosen up and let go a lot more. But yet, the couple breathing expert guys who wrote the books on breathing and stuff, they're like, no, it should be nose breathing only and tape your mouth at night and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's anyone that wants to try this, go into a stretch and just breathe through your mouth in and out, like hyperventilate while you're stretching. You'll notice that it's very difficult to get your body to relax so you can actually go into the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, those individuals have a lot more knowledge on the topic of breathing. Just for the sake of it, breathing in through the nose. I always tell my clients, if you want to breathe out through your lips, breathe out through pursed lips like you're blowing up a balloon or breathing through a straw. Staying in with the nose as much as possible, staying using the nose as much as you can. I wouldn't ever recommend breathing in through the mouth unless you're like in a high intensity workout and you have to go to that next gear. That would be
Mm-hmm.
beneficial. As for Wim Hof, I believe, because if anyone's ever done Wim Hof before, he does a lot of like breathing. My understanding is he's pushing the body into a sympathetic, he's revving the system up, and you can do that very easily by hyperventilating, going through the mouth. But then they're going into very long holds, and which allows the body, in my understanding, to switch over to that parasympathetic state of rest, digest, calming down. So it helps the individual to switch between the states.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the Wim Hof is more just kind of like a technique or a strategy that you obviously are doing, once or maybe twice a day, but you're not going to be constantly breathing like that on the regular. Yeah, I think for the most part, and I know the, mouth breathing at night, I actually did I did use the mouth tape for a while. I did tape my mouth. It kind of, I think if I thought I was a mouth breather at night, I would continue to do it. I don't think I am. And I think just the tape sometimes was just a little annoying, and I would kind of, if I woke up a little bit and then felt the tape, I would wake up more rather than falling back asleep. So I don't do it regularly at the moment, but I think if you are mouth breathing, it could be very beneficial. And some people just, getting way more oxygen and getting their breath a lot better from doing that if they need to.
Yeah, spot on. And I want to make this as beneficial for all your listeners as possible. Like there's the book out there, it's called Breathe. I think it's James Nestor.
Yep.
He goes in, he talks about, it's very sciencey, but he describes it in layman terms. If you guys want to dive deeper into that, he talks about how breathing impacts your jaw structure, impacts breathing, impacts every aspect of the nitric oxide that you can get through breathing through your nose. So I don't think that's probably for this podcast, but if people want to dive deeper, go check out that book. Or Pat McEwen, he has a book called Oxygen Advantage as well that dives deeper.
Those are the two that I read, and they're both very big on nose breathing, and they both talk about taping your mouth at night, especially if you think you might be a mouth breather. Really good stuff. So let's move on to maybe another pillar. So you had I think you had six pillars. What's one of the next ones?
Movement, sleep.
Yeah.
We can talk about one of those, stress, things of that nature. Which one do you want to dive into?
Yeah, since you've done a lot with, I know with the Czech certification, you guys have done a lot with regards to movement. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So here's another, we'll start with this. A theme that I see is I don't know if people are very aware of how well they're moving. I see two extremes: the extreme of people that work out all the time and they're always in the gym, and then you have the people that have desk jobs, they're sitting around and they get maybe 1,000 steps in the day. So when I work with individuals, most of the people that I see, they're very stressed out from poor sleep, poor nutrition, poor movement, lots of stress going on in their lives. That when you work out, that's also another stressor on the body. So what I do a lot with my clients is if they come in, we typically take off 3, 4, 5 weeks of actually working out. I like go move, go do Tai Chi, go for hikes, go for walks, go do some leisure bike rides, get movement. Movement is beautiful. It's so incredibly powerful for the body. But I don't think the high intensity training, the HIIT training, is always where people need to go right away for their health. So I'll just start there and take
yeah, it's it's a really good point. I mean, when I do HIIT training, like if I do 4 or 5 rounds of like all out sprints for 20 seconds or whatever, like I can't do a whole lot else that day. Like I'm totally beat, right? And so like, yeah, I'm gonna do that every once in a while. I'm gonna maybe add that as a positive stressor on my body, but I don't want to be doing that every day, let alone even 3 times a week. If I'm being honest, maybe I need to find a different type of HIIT training that works best for me. But for me, it takes a lot out of me. And I also, it's kind of interesting because I was recently speaking with a guy, he's 60 years old and he works out, strength training 4 times a week. And he's got the Peloton. So he's like 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day on the Peloton. And I'm like, oh man, this guy, he's in great shape. And then I'm like, man, I need to do that, but I'm like, but I feel like it would beat me up a little bit, right? Sometimes I feel a little beat up when I do a really hard workout. I feel beat up the next day to the point where my body's telling me like, no, do not lift weights today,
Yeah, and that's like, you have a good relationship with your body. You understand what it's telling you, where a lot of individuals, they just haven't put enough time into it yet to, all right, I need to take a step back, or actually I can push a little bit harder today. But here's a general theme that plays out significantly, which it irks me. People that will sacrifice sleep to wake up in the morning to go work out. That drives me nuts. And I put a stop to that almost immediately with my clients if they're willing to do that. Obviously, I'm not going to put in and cause a lot of stress there, but the recovery process is so key to that. And if you want the results and you want to perform well, you need rest, recovery, sleep, and the other aspects of fueling your body correctly. Otherwise, you're going to be achy, you're going to be sore, you're going to get injuries because you're not recovering well. And then you go push 2-a-days on Pelotons and you're doing 60 minutes here and then 6 minutes there, then a high intensity workout. That's very stressful on the body.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad you said that. That's a really good point. About, some people, especially, kind of in the older days, I feel like now people are realizing the importance of sleep. But there's still some people like, yeah, I got to wake up at 4:30 every morning because I got to go to the gym and lift weights. And me personally, with regards to sleep, I don't want to set an alarm. I want my body to sleep until it's done sleeping, and wake up. So obviously, if you're traveling or speaking at a conference or whatever, you may have to set an alarm every once in a while. But for me, I prefer to minimize that. And I agree 100% to sacrifice sleep and then to go do something really hard. I mean, yeah, it's great. You can be proud of yourself and talk tough that, yeah, I wake up 4:30 and lift weights and it's no matter what, I do it every day, no matter what. And it's like, okay, that's great. But, sometimes it's better to show yourself a little more self-love, self-care. But the important thing you said is that, getting in movement every day is important, right? So it's not just one or the other. And it's something I'm trying to work on myself. It's like, even if I'm taking a day off, I want to at least do a 20-minute walk at a minimum, right? I want to at least, and I probably should be doing that a couple of times a day. Sometimes I'm standing here, in my home office, standing desk, and I'm just kind of standing all day, or standing and sitting, mostly standing. So, yeah, what are some ways that maybe myself and others could, integrate more easy movements, things that are not stressful and actually give you energy?
Yeah, and it can be you can make it as simple as you want. Like, you can go as far as go buy a dog and then you have to get outside and walk as much as you want. Or it can be if you do a lot of work from home, things of that nature, jump on a phone call and go for a walk. You can pace in your house. You can go up and down the stairs. If it's not windy outside, put some headphones in, go for a walk. That movement helps keep your mind sharp too. And you can be a lot better on conversations if you're a salesperson or whatever it is you're doing for your profession. Um, Obviously, standing desks are awesome. Like right now, I'm sitting and I've been on a phone call for the last like 2.5 hours. So I'm gonna have to get up and move because my body's telling me that. So if you are sitting, do something where you're sitting for 30 minutes, and maybe if you can get a desk that rises up, then you can go from sitting to standing to kneeling. Just get some movement and move the joints through the full range of motion. That will be. It's like it's simple, but
Mm-hmm.
you just have to do it. Just
Yeah, yeah, it is. Any tips around like flexibility and mobility? One thing I feel like I've been lacking because, I probably went, uh, 20 years without doing, yoga or stretching or something like, mobility, more than stretching, like mobility type stuff. And that's one of my concerns. It's one of the things I'm working on more now and trying to be more aware of, is just, yeah, trying to keep that, especially as you get older, right? It's not just, strength is a big part of it, but also having mobility and flexibility is really important. You see all these people with back pain all the time, right? That's probably, it's a lot of that's like tightness in the back, tightness in the hips, not moving, not doing mobility.
yeah, I want to throw a caveat in there. We were talking earlier about sensitivities and
Mm-hmm.
inflammatory foods. If you're eating inflammatory foods, if you roll an ankle, your ankle swells up. If you're eating inflammatory foods, your digestive tract's going to swell up. What happens then, what typically happens is the deep core is going to shut off. So your transverse abdominis, those deep abdominal muscles, they turn off to make room for the swelling organs. If
Mm.
they turn off, your pelvis and your spine are not going to be as stable. And then you're going to do heavy deadlifts, heavy squats. That can lead to back issues right there. Cleaning up your diet will be clean up your diet, and hydration will be some of the simplest things to help alleviate the back pain. And then to go into like the stretching and the mobilization aspect is most individuals tend to go to their strengths. If you like lifting, you tend to lift more and don't stretch much. If you're into
Mm-hmm.
yoga, you tend to do a lot of yoga and not a lot of strength training.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of stretch before you work out. Maybe get a little sweat going, do some jump rope, jump on a bike, stretch so your body's in optimal alignment. So if something's short and tight, stretch it out so you're in that optimal alignment. If you're, let's just say hypothetically, most people, their chests are going to be tight because they're rounded forward at a desk the entire time. Awesome. Go get a quick sweat going, go jump on a treadmill or a bike, some jump rope, and then stretch out your chest, stretch out your quads, your hip flexors. Those are going to be extremely tight. So now you're going to be in a better alignment when you are working out. So you have optimal posture and optimal form. So now you're ingraining that movement into your training session. That would be one of the simpler things that you can do as well. And
Yep.
then put an emphasis on stretching. Like it's awesome. It's good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have
Definitely.
yet to have someone tell me they don't feel better after stretching. I wanted to throw that in there.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I don't think that's ever happened. Um, so let's talk a little bit about pain, because I know you've had a lot of clients that have been in pain, and you kind of just touched on it. It's something that I've actually said before, and I've always thought this because, again, when I was in pain, it was a lot of the inflammation in my body, and I actually have a belief that, so many people have back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, and it's like, well, if you weren't in like a car accident, like this is just chronic pain that's came out of nowhere, and like you have this pain like so many people do, that's really, a lot of it comes from inflammation, I feel like, in the body, and your shoulders inflamed, your knees inflamed, your back's inflamed because of, your lifestyle and your diet. And so I actually believe a lot of those kind of pains that, and even people, I had someone that I know close to me that was going to get a surgery recently. And it's like, okay, like, well, before we decide to get a surgery, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice or anything like that, but it's just like, hey, here's an idea though. Before we get a surgery, why not try doing an anti-inflammatory diet, right? And then that person did that and was like, my shoulder feels way better already, And so it's just interesting. Like, I mean, I wonder how many surgeries could be avoided if people actually went on a low inflammatory diet for a month instead of getting the surgery. And of course, surgery in medicine is great. It's needed sometimes, but in general, it's something interesting.
100% agree with you wholeheartedly there. Pain is our greatest teacher. Pain is telling you something is off in your body or you're doing something incorrectly. What is it that you're doing incorrectly? Are you moving poorly? Are you not, like, I'm going to beat a dead horse here. Like, are you sleeping well? Are you eating good quality foods? How's your stress? So there's an emotional component to this. Certain muscles store certain emotions. You ever notice how everyone's super stressed out? They store it in their traps, shoulders, traps. You get tension headaches. Once again, if these muscles are stretched out or super tight, your shoulders, if you shrug up, that's going to impact your breathing then. So everything's like a spider web. It's all connected. You can't separate the mental, the emotional, the physical. So it's like, what's going on in your life? You have to pull the layers back. Look like almost Shrek as like when he talks about as an onion. People are like onions. People have layers. Pull that stuff back. See what's going on. But that pain is telling you something. Take some time, take a step back, reflect on what that pain is sharing with you.
Yeah, that's really good. Let's talk. I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here, but I did want to ask you about the kind of emotional side of things, the mindset part of things. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that and maybe challenges that you've seen in clients and things that have helped them overcome that?
Yeah, this is a very deep question, and it can go 100 different ways. I will share. I'll share this, which will be more tangible for clients. Okay, so how we use our words create the stories that we tell ourselves, which creates our reality. So our words will have a direct influence on our emotions, our posture, our breathing rate, our imagination, our creativity. So let me ask you this: Do you have a goal that you have? Would you be willing to articulate a goal?
So a goal that I have is for me, my wife, and my two daughters to all live to over 100 years old.
So if we put that into, we'll just use you for an example. I want to live to 100 years old, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's something that we call soft talk. Okay. Soft talk is words that we use that soften our meaning. They don't create confidence or clarity. So words like probably, should, might, possibly, I try. Do me a favor, take one of those words and put that into your goal. I might live to 100 years old. I'll probably live to 100 years old. How does that confidence do? How does that play?
Bad. Yeah. Yeah. It's like to try, right? If you're trying, you're not actually doing it, right? Like, so yeah.
Yeah. So the words have a huge impact on our emotion. The other aspect we can talk about is our issues get stored in our tissues. Looking at our stories, we have to dive in. We have to pull back the layers. And what I've seen works out really well is changing the perception on the story, on what we're telling ourselves. An example to help illustrate this is I was working with a client, and one of the things that she said is, my sister is problematic. She had a lot of drug issues and things of that nature, absent, wasn't there. I was like, all right, interesting, cool. What if we take out the my sister and we put in an I? And she's like, I'm problematic. I was like, cool. How does that resonate with you? She's like, wow, yeah, that's accurate. She's like, I'm an enabler. I was like, ooh, okay. So now what we're doing is we're changing the perception, we're changing the picture. Now we're putting on ourselves. We're responsible for how we feel. No one else is.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing that, I was like, all right, you're an enabler. What's your options? She's like, I can listen. I was like, ooh, beautiful. I can now we're making progress. We're changing the story around of her thinking that it's always her sister's fault. And now we're putting it on her. So she can listen. Beautiful. I was like, all right, how's that resonating for you? She's like, yeah, I like it, but it's not 100% there. I was like, all right. We took it another step forward, and I was like, what if we added this in? And typically when I'm doing these conversations, I'm on like a Google Doc so we can see it. I was like, regardless of my sister's actions, comma, I still listen. And she's like, it was just like an epiphany, tears shed. She's like, that's the perception I need. We turned the dial down on, it's always my sister's fault. I can't do anything about it. Where now we put a mirror in front of her and she sees it, how it's impacting herself. And that's where it's beautiful, because I don't need to tell her this is how you need to feel, this is what you need to do. She's coming up with that on her own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. I love that. A lot of this stuff is similar to stuff that I learned many years ago as well in neuro-linguistic programming many years ago. A lot of this, like, being at cause, not blaming other people. And, another thing that came to mind as you were saying that, Tony Robbins, who was actually one of the first students of NLP as well, but in his, the Netflix documentary, I Am Not Your Guru, with Tony Robbins, which is a great documentary. I highly recommend everyone watch it. And there's one part in it where there's a mother and a daughter, and and anyway, he goes through some process, and the daughter, you could literally just see her forgive the mother and have this like release, and you literally see her shoulders drop and the and like, and then they interview her the next day, and she said, last night, for the first time ever, I had a full night's sleep, woke up with no back pain. I've had back pain every night and been struggling to go to sleep for however many years. And just like that release, and you could see the release. And then you saw the next day the smile on her face, and how that changed and got rid of her pain. So it's just so fascinating how so many of these conversations that I have with, health experts like yourself end up, it's like, yes, we talk about the health stuff, but it's like, then it goes into some emotional aspect like this,
It certainly does, which is beautiful, and that's what makes the coaching aspect of it fun. Because yeah, we need to change up some. We got these 6 foundational principles. We need to get that into place, but there's times where we can't get those things into place because there is a belief system or there's a story that's going on in someone's head that's just, it's on repeat. And then when you can get them to slow down, you can get their breath involved. It changes that perception. It changes the emotion. I can guarantee you her breathing changed. The stress levels, her tension that she was holding is, once again, that's the psychological side of things is connected intimately with the physiological side of things. And like, it's a great example to show how those two things are connected.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Well, Nick, this has been awesome, man. I want you, can you tell everyone if anyone's interested in learning more from you or they want to work with you, what's the best way for people to reach you or learn from you?
Yeah, you bet. I have an Instagram page. I'm not always on that. It's KuhleFit, KuhleFit. I'm on Facebook, Nick Kuhle, obviously Kuhle. But if you want to reach out to me, you want to jump on a call and see if it's the right fit for you, go to send me an email, kuhlefit@gmail.com. That's the simplest way. We'll figure out a time. We'll connect.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much. This has been a lot of fun. Learned a lot, and always enjoy these conversations. Really, really grateful that you've shared this with our community. And yeah, reach out to Nick, and if you want some one-on-one or some further learnings and teachings. And yeah, man, just really appreciate your time. You've been a blessing here, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Dude, likewise, brother. It was a blast. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you.